Alright, so this is a short video to show you how to use Tracker with slow motion cell phone video capture. So the first thing you have to know about slow motion video is there's typically a lot of it. We're going to be auto tracking points in that video, so we need quite a bit of memory to do that. This unfortunately is not going to be enough. For 42 seconds of slow motion video, I needed 512 megabytes, and that was just enough. So I'm going to set my memory size for 1024. We want to do this first because Tracker has to restart when you do this. So we're going to say OK and restart. Now that Tracker is restarted, we're going to open and load our video clip. It's telling us that some of the frame durations are different from others, and this is probably because cell phones often allow you to export with a regular frame rate and a slow motion frame rate in the same video. So it's suggesting we exclude the first 6 frames and start at frame 7. So that's what we're going to do. Because you're only going to see a small area of this video, I wanted to show you the whole thing. So it's a mass spring damper system. What we're mostly seeing is the fluid damper. It's pulled down and then released and returns upwards. And we're going to first set the clip information. So we've already been told that we should probably ignore the first 6 frames. So we'll put start frame as 7. The other thing we have to change is frame rate. So you'll have to check your own cell phone as to what the slow motion frame rate is. This one is 240 frames per second. Okay, so now we've got the time axis correct. Now we have to get the distance measurements correct. And we do that by adding a calibration stick. So this is measuring a length in the video that we know the length of outside of the video. So what we have to do is shift and click to mark one end, and shift and click to mark the other end, and then put in the actual length, not 500 meters, but about 17 centimeters. So now, if I want to get more accurate about this, I'm going to zoom in and make sure that calibration stick endpoint is right at the end where I've measured, and right at the other end where I've measured. We'll just zoom out again. And then we have to put in our coordinate system. So this makes our coordinate system visible. We can move the axes around. I recommend putting it in the lower left so all of your values are positive. The other thing we can do is if our video is taken at a little bit of an angle, we can change the angle of the system. So if we thought we needed it, and we can just move around the axes to compare, I think we're pretty much vertical. So we'll just go with this, put it in the lower left corner, and leave it there. And the last thing we have to do is create a point mass. So the point mass will be a point on our apparatus that we're going to track. For this apparatus, we really only care about the up and down motion. If we wanted to measure general plane motion, we could add additional point masses to our apparatus or to other objects in frame. But we don't need to do that here, so we'll just have one. Now we're set up to start auto tracking. I want to choose an area with several visual features. So I'm going to choose this nut assembly to be the area that I auto track on this apparatus. I'm going to open the auto tracker, and I'm going to zoom in to the nut so I can pick a point. So I'm going to add 3 things to this keyframe through one click. So Shift Control, and then I'm going to select this point as the point I'm going to track, this corner of the nut. It's going to add 3 things. It's going to add the point labeled 0. It's going to add this circle, which is the template, and this square, which is the search area. So the point is the point that's going to have the position measured. The template helps us do the matching from frame to frame. Our template doesn't have many distinct features. It doesn't have a lot of contrast. It's probably not going to work too well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bigger template of this whole nut assembly. There's two ways to move the template. You can grab the edge of the circle and move it, and then expand it by taking this square. And we're going to see it now in our auto tracker window. We're seeing the whole nut assembly. The other way to do it is once you've added your point, you can shift, control, click where you want to center your template in your search area. We'll move the search area to be appropriate, and we'll expand our template again. If we ever want to find this keyframe again, if it didn't go well, and we want to change it later, we can go to Show Keyframe and go back to this keyframe. Before we start auto tracking, we want to change two settings. The evolution rate, so that's how much the template can change from frame to frame. We're going to reduce that to 5%. And then auto mark is how similar does the current frame have to be to the template to produce a match. And we're going to increase that to 10, the maximum. And we're doing that so that the system will stop if it doesn't get a really good match. If you have a cleaner video with a more high contrast marker, you might not need to make these so extreme. But in this case, what you're going to see is that even with this, we're going to have problems matching. Okay, so we are ready to go with our auto tracker. What I like to do is search the next few frames. So we've gone to the second frame, that looks pretty good. We've gone to the next one. Okay, so it's tracking so far pretty well. It's not moving a lot yet though. So we're going to hit search and it's going to start auto tracking. Now what we really want to see is the Y direction. So we're going to add a plot over here so that we see both X and Y. So we're getting to the bottom. I'm just going to stop the auto tracker here for a second. You notice that we're seeing this trail of the last few points. If you don't want to see that, if it's hard to make out where your point is, you can click up here and say no trails, and you'll just see the point for this frame. We've hit frame 436 and it hasn't found a good match. You can see the match score is pretty low. It gives us a bunch of options, but what I'm going to show you is how to set a new keyframe. So we'll get a new template that'll allow it to evolve from this point. Now, first of all, we want to press stop on our auto tracker, because if we don't, as soon as we set that keyframe point, it's going to keep moving and we won't have a chance to adjust our template. So I'm going to shift control and click again in the same physical location on the object. And then I'm going to move the template center with another shift control click and make that template larger to cover the nut assembly. Okay. So typically I like to do a couple manual advances just to see that that's working. And then turn on our auto search again. All right, and we finished tracking. We've got all of our points. We can now export our data. File, export. We want to select all cells. We want full precision. We want our mass. You can choose tab or comma delimited. We'll save that as the data. Save.